Recorded live from our studio in Denver, Colorado, this is the Frontline Tales podcast.
So, I'd like to welcome in Dr. Amy Shroff right now. Hello, Amy.
Hello, how are you?
I'm
So
doing
nice to
all
see
right.
you.
Thank you. You as well. So, I'm glad that we finally got to connect. And
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, and I would love for you to, let's just get right into it. Amy and I have known each other for a little while. Right after the start of the war, she started procuring all kinds of veterinary medicine and supplies and just about everything that we needed, which got distributed through many shelters, just all kinds of. We were carrying, as you know, we carried about,
Tons.
I don't know,
Yeah.
10, 15 bags at a time. It was crazy
hmm
for a long time. And you and your husband were I can't even tell you how grateful we were, but the Ukrainians for all the supplies. You basically got a bunch of veterinarians across the country to send us
hmm
supplies. I was
hmm
getting boxes every day, and it was wonderful. So I want to thank you. And I know that we're not done taking things, obviously, to
No,
Ukraine, and I don't see an end to this anytime soon. It's unfortunate, but that's
it
the way it
is.
is.
I know, unfortunately. We're really hoping that the war would be winding down or be coming to an end, but unfortunately, that's not the case. So, and people and animals are suffering in Ukraine. And my worry is also that the animals are the forgotten refugees of the war, right? So what we did was when you put out the call for this, I spoke to the Massachusetts Veterinary Medical Association, and we decided to put out a call asking at least veterinarians in the New England area to donate medications and supplies, and the response was absolutely overwhelming. I'm still getting people offering to donate, and one of your team members, Colton Martin, does have some supplies that we just recently gave to him, and I have another box that I think now what I'm doing is I'm asking veterinarians just to send them to him directly because he's in Massachusetts. But I
Right.
think we sent to you over maybe between 500 and 700 pounds of medication, and that's what we sent. And then there were other veterinarians from other parts of the country that we also reached out to us to say, how can we help? So I gave them your address. So you were getting donations.
I had a
And
full garage at one
yes, you
time.
did. Yes, you did. And you could still have more. I mean, there are, we haven't really tapped into other parts of the country.
Right.
I mean, there are veterinary medical associations in every state. And if we wanted to, we could certainly scale that up. But that also begs the question about storage and about getting it over there and when you go, right? Because trying to mail medications to the Ukraine is nearly impossible. You have to have a group like yourself to go in with them and then also connections on how to get them properly distributed. So that's where the partnership worked so well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, we had those duffel bags, and those duffel bags have circulated throughout Ukraine
Yes.
from the original time that we took them. They've shown up in different areas of Ukraine with other groups and have been recycled. And I mean, it's been a little crazy. So we'll continue on with our stuff in Ukraine. But I wanted to talk to you about Let's Save the Strays, the
hmm
group that I believe you founded it, didn't you?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I did. And we have not gone into Ukraine, obviously, but when the war broke out, we just felt the need to try and help you. And ironically, we do have we focus on trap-neuter-vaccinate-release. We focus on free roaming and stray animals in underserved parts of the world. And before the Ukrainian war broke out, we were and still are supporting a project in Russia. I mean, animals are not political. I'm just going to say that. And so people suffer all over the world, including Russia. Not that we're going to necessarily take sides, but animals suffer in Russia massively. And so there was a group here called Big Little Life Animal Rescue, which is here in New England. And they reached out to me to see about getting help in Russia. And then I think they were the ones, you had contacted them or they had contacted you about helping in Ukraine, and they do still help in Ukraine. And so that's how it all kind of came to pass. But our focus, the focus countries that we were in were Thailand, Philippines, Russia, and Myanmar. And now we're actually focusing mainly on Myanmar because that's the country that has the greatest need and has no one else. We are the only nonprofit, international nonprofit working in Myanmar right now,
And
doing trap neuter.
you've been there, correct?
Yes, many times, and I'm going again in November. So it is in the middle of the world's longest civil war. It's been in the middle of a civil war since just after COVID, and it is the poorest country in Southeast Asia with the average, individual living on $1 a day. And it has, next to India, the second highest incidence of human deaths from rabies, which is mainly dog bites, in all of Southeast Asia. So more than 5,000 children a year will die of rabies. And that's poorly documented just because of the civil war and the situation that is happening there right now with the military takeover. Unfortunately,
How do you feel when you're there? Do you feel safe?
I do. I mean, so the war is not happening. I mean, I think it's in some ways, if I can say, I think it's a little bit like Ukraine. There's some parts of Ukraine that are not, we're not on the front lines, right? So there's some parts of Ukraine that are, in a more peaceful state, and then there are some parts of Ukraine that are right in the middle of all of it. And so there are parts of Myanmar provinces, areas that are states rather, that are in the middle of all the fighting. Yangon, which used to be the capital, is not necessarily in the middle of it. I think a lot of the demonstrations have died down, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there can't be outbreaks. And then Mandalay, which is where we had our original project, still have our biggest project, is closest to the fighting that's happening, but it also was hit by a 7.9 earthquake in March. Yes, that the estimate is anywhere from 3,500 to 10,000 people, potentially, with also many, many people still either living on the streets or now living in monasteries because their homes are destroyed. So
And
it's a country.
This is the same earthquake that hit Thailand too.
Yes, correct. It's the same earthquake that hit Bangkok. Yes, exactly. And it hit some, there were some tremors in Chiang Mai, but the epicenter was Mandalay and Naypyidaw, which is now the capital. And yeah, it was really tough. We were also the only international group to offer any kind of aid for people with their animals, stray animals. I mean, a lot of the strays, we've done TNVR, trap neuter vaccinate release, on over 35,000 dogs in the country, but the majority of them, actually, ironically, they did do well. Our team survived, a majority of the animals survived, but there were a lot of wounds, a lot of trauma, a lot of issues that way. And you see that after a disaster. And then the other thing also is what we're dealing with now is more, overpopulation explosions, rabies disease outbreaks. So we were doing a lot of first aid and medical care and feeding. And now we're starting to get back to doing TNVR to make sure that we're vaccinating and taking care of the populations that are there now.
So what kind of team do you have in Myanmar currently?
So the beauty of this project, and I think in a lot of ways the beauty of what you do too, is working with local people on the ground, right? Because it's not about necessarily people from outside the country going in and then leaving. It's more about making sure that we empower and enable local teams. So I'm the foreigner that goes there, of course, as a tourist, but all of the work that's done is Burmese led, it's Burmese run. So we have I think about 10 veterinarians now altogether. So we have 5 in each city, Mandalay and Yangon. Yangon we started last year, but it's going gangbusters. It's very, very busy. And then we have several, I would say 3 to 4 technicians in each city, quite a few volunteers, 10 to 15 volunteers. And then we work with about between 50 and 60 street feeders. We call them the community animal guardians, but the street feeders are really the focus of the work just because they're the ones that take care of these animals on a regular basis.
So you're dependent upon donations, correct? Just like
Yes, we're dependent. Yep. Yep. We're a 501c3 here in the United States, and we are dependent upon grants and private donations. There are also even Burmese people that donate. Ironically, it's one of the poorest, I think it's the poorest country in Southeast Asia, but it's also rated in the top 5 most generous countries. I don't know whether that's a good thing to say or not, but I think what's inspirational is, when they have, these are people who have very little, but they do donate. It may not be a lot of money. I mean, I think it's something like between 25 and 4,500 Myanmar jet to the dollar. So if somebody donates 4,000 or 50,000 or 100,000, may not be a lot of money for us, but it's a lot of money for them. And yes, it's privately funded. We're not funded by the government or on either side.
it's similar to Ukraine. It's similar in a way that because we do still get people in Ukraine who donate, but it's not necessarily financial donations. It is normally either food or medical supplies and things like that. That's what we find. But you had mentioned about Ukraine, about safe places. There are very few and far
Yeah.
between today that are
Yes,
safe. I
that are
mean,
safe.
the Russians have hit the western side of Ukraine in the last month a lot. And
Yes, it's getting worse.
yeah, and one of the shelters that we've been dealing with got hit a couple of times,
Mm.
just random. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
the Russians send their stuff, and if it hits a target, great. But these people who were once sheltered, basically, because there was nothing in the West except at the beginning of the war, and then it's just stopped. And Lviv and all the places around there to the west, to the south, to the north, and a little bit to the east had never experienced anything like they've gone through in the last month
It's
because
horrible.
they're getting hit all the time. So what was once safe is no
It's no
longer
longer.
safe.
Yeah. And there's a lack of predictability about this, and there's no end. I mean, it's the same thing in Myanmar right now. There isn't an end. I don't, I'm not directly involved in it, but I do think that the people of Myanmar want peace, and they don't necessarily want military rule. The reason I chose Myanmar, I was introduced to it by people in Thailand that, there are a lot of Burmese that are in Thailand and vice versa. But I think it's because our vision is to go where no one else goes, to help those animals and people the world has forgotten. So it's not that I planned on necessarily going to Myanmar, but here we are. It's it's
I
a place that has such peril, and
I
and
don't
no one's standing up for them.
I don't think that in rescue we ever really plan to
No.
go to some place that's a hot zone, whether it's a war zone or whether it's disaster. You just can, we do plan to do things like in other countries like Costa Rica and Belize and Puerto Rico and places like that because they have an ongoing issue there. Uh-oh, I lost you. There you're back.
Sorry. Apology. Yeah, sorry, I apologize.
That's all right. So I was saying that we don't plan on that, but when you're called, when things happen, and again, you were in Miramar way before the earthquake hit, and that was just
Yes.
one of those things that unpredictable, unplanned, and
Right.
yet
Right.
it happened.
And it happened right after I left. I mean, I was there until February, and it happened in March. And yeah, so it's scary to think about. I mean, Myanmar has been hit by earthquakes before. They are on a major fault line. So it can
Yeah.
happen again. And there were tons of aftershocks for the longest time afterwards. Even recently, we have also started an education program where we are educating school age children because I think they're the future of the country on animal safety, safe handling, humane care, rabies knowledge, dispelling the myths about rabies, understanding what TNVR is. So there was a huge aftershock or a huge tremor that happened during one of the education days that we had in the school, and so they had to evacuate. But they evacuate outside, and there's trees everywhere, and there's buildings everywhere. I mean,
Right.
there's no shelter for them to go to. They just evacuate outside the buildings, which is what they all do, you know. So yeah.
Well, it sounds like, the educational programs that you've set up is a lot of what we've done throughout Asia, throughout Korea,
Hmm.
getting to the school children, getting to the high school age, and
Yes.
I have seen a dramatic shift from 2017 and 2018 when we really did start educating and exposing school children and young teens to dogs because they were fearful.
Yeah,
Disease and
yes,
all sorts.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think children want to be. I mean, first of all, there are a lot of Burmese people that love their animals. It's not that they don't. There is obviously a contingent of people who, I think what people don't want is they don't want tons and tons of street dogs that are hungry on the streets fighting.
Right,
That's what they
right.
don't want. I mean, nobody wants that. We don't deal with that here in the United States necessarily, except maybe on the First
Well,
Nation reservations. We
we've
do.
got we've got a few places like
Yeah, we have.
San Antonio where we've been working,
Yes,
or El
yes.
Paso, or places where there are and
Arkansas. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
there are a lot of abandoned animals that end up on the street,
Yes,
unfortunately, in the
true,
United
true,
States, and
true.
we've concentrated some of our efforts to those as well because we're not just a global entity.
We're
We
also
take
working
care of
in the US.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, that's true. But I think that's the root of perhaps where the resentment comes from is that human animal conflict. And I think it could be prevented with responsible stray animal management, responsible pet ownership, and access to veterinary care, which is a whole nother subject, especially here in the United States. But that's what we're trying to solve is kind of stop that human animal conflict from happening by doing trap-neuter-vaccinate-release work and helping these animals to be healthier, happier, and by doing that, they are now community pets, and they're now embraced by the communities that live with them. Because children live with in Yangon alone, they live with over 300,000 stray dogs,
Wow.
just in the city. And so, but they want to touch them, they want to be near them, and and dogs are wonderful animals. So by teaching them, and also if we go to a school, we will tend to do a small TNVR project on the animals surrounding the school. So the children now know they're safe, they're neutered, they're not going to have a lot of unwanted puppies. We notch the ear
Right.
while they're under anesthesia. So we have this campaign called Watch the Notch. So if you see the dog's ears notched, you know that they're safe. So it's trying to just educate, one child at a time. But we've educated about 500 kids so far.
Well,
So
we I've had a lot of experience in the Middle East as well, and
yeah,
in Jordan and a few other places where dogs are not embraced very warmly,
no, absolutely.
and they put a fatwa on dogs at one time in 2018, and they were killing dogs. They were
Mhm.
actually shooting people's pets that were in their yard,
Yeah,
and
I
there
know.
was a $50 bounty on every dog that they would
Hmm.
bring in, and it was because a young girl got bit
Right.
by her neighbor's
That would
dog
start.
and she died. And they blamed it on rabies when in fact it wasn't rabies. She died of sepsis. The doctor had sewn up the bite, which is something that you just don't do. And they sewed up the
No,
bite,
true.
and they the little girl contracted sepsis and died from that. And then every dog in Jordan was
Was
blamed.
now, yeah, had a price on. I mean, had a label on its head.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and again, that's all lack of education, lack of understanding, lack of medical care. Same thing with rabies, because rabies is so rampant in Myanmar and many of these countries. So people don't understand how to recognize rabies and the symptoms of when you're bit by a rabid animal or what a rabid animal looks like. And so, yeah, there's just this widespread terror of this happening all the time. And so, just trying to dispel that and educate people,
yeah.
help them understand that killing them it doesn't help. I mean, the World Health Organization and many other organizations have come out to say that culling doesn't help. Not only is it cruel, it's not helping.
Well, it creates a void in a lot of places where there are
Yep.
packs of dogs, and you take out the leader of the dog.
Yep. And then
Now they're
others
going
come in.
exactly, and it's actually a very dangerous practice for
It
them to
is
do that.
very, very much so for the animals, for the people. So the International Coalition on Animal Management (ICAM) has also come out officially to talk about TNVR, and we were part of their conference in June, and we presented on that. And also, it's going to be World Rabies Day on Monday,
Right.
on the 29th. And so the Global Alliance for Rabies Control has come out with a campaign. So it's just about getting the word out. I mean, why rabies is still killing people when other diseases like polio and measles and all these other diseases, even COVID, they've been controlled by vaccines. Rabies, the vaccines are so common. There's even an oral vaccine,
Yes.
so it's so easy to vaccinate. It's not about necessarily vaccinating people, although all of our team are vaccinated for rabies, but it's
Right.
about vaccinating these animals. So we're
Well,
just
and
trying
it's
to.
the problem is, you wish you could vaccinate every dog. Now, we've done a lot of disease mitigation over the years, and
Mhm.
the problem is, like in a lot of rural areas, we have no way to transport the rabies vaccination in the conditions that it needs to be because it needs to be refrigerated, and we have no way to get it to them. So that's been a real struggle from some of the places that we've been, and it's a problem because not every country has refrigerated trucks or anything
Right,
like that.
right,
So
right.
we're taking them in ice chests and trying to get them, and we have to keep them at a certain temperature, and it has to be, I mean, all this stuff comes into play. So it's very difficult in very rural areas of third world countries.
True, true. Yeah, and actually along those lines, so I have not had a chance to investigate the oral vaccine. But if you go onto the ICAM website, so a couple of things about the rabies vaccine. Ideally, using the US based rabies vaccine is best. Although we haven't always, same thing, Myanmar, we haven't always had access to it.
Mm.
Keeping it cold in ice chests, if that's the best you can do, it's not ideal. Putting a thermometer in the ice chest would be best, but not always ideal.
Not ideal,
No.
especially in desert
Yes,
countries.
exactly, exactly. So the thought that I'd have to, don't quote me on this, but there is also the idea that the thought that can be out of refrigeration and is still effective, but I don't want to necessarily say that without
Yeah.
looking at. But there have been discussions about keeping it out of refrigeration. It's still effective. However, that's not what we do. But the oral vaccine does not necessarily. I don't believe it needs to be refrigerated. I don't.
Mm.
I don't know. But on the ICAM website, there are virtual presentations that we all did, and there's one that's from an individual in India, and she is using the oral vaccine. And so I really wish that we could get this more widespread, get it
Yeah.
out there,
I'd like to know
because.
how effective it is, and I'd like to know, what studies have been done on the oral
Mhm,
before I start
mhm.
doing it. Because I hate to say that a dog has been vaccinated orally,
Right,
but it may not necessarily work.
right.
And it's like that with, I've actually ended up throwing out a lot of rabies vaccines because, they went 12 hours without being
Yeah, without
refrigerated.
being refrigerated. Yeah. I mean, I think my understanding is that they can be out for a lot longer than that, but like I said, we don't do it, and we would have to contact Merck or have to
Right.
contact these vaccine companies to see. But I know that Mission Rabies insists on obviously keeping them refrigerated and using the US based vaccines just
Well,
because
and
they
I,
are more hardy
yeah, and I talked to
and more
Merck.
effective.
I talked to the people at Merck over the years, and they have recommended that we do not
No,
keep
yeah,
them
no,
refrigerated.
keep them. They should be refrigerated. Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
So, well, look, I love the work that you're doing. I just wanted to introduce everybody to you
Thank you.
and thank you again for everything that you've done for us and for the people of Ukraine and the animals of Ukraine.
And we'll continue.
Yeah, I know. And tell the people what your website is.
So our website is letssavethestrays.org. We also are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, and if you want to reach out to me, it's Amy at letssavethestrays.org. And we're 501c3, and we would love to hear from you. We're always looking for volunteers to do good work here in the United States so we can be the engine or the wind beneath the wings in Myanmar. We invite all kinds of people to get involved.
Well, and I, as you know, I love bringing on other rescues and other organizations. You know, there's so many other groups that won't talk about other groups because they think it's competition for donations.
Oh, that's
But you know, I think you know me well enough. In my world, it's all about one thing, and it isn't about the competition. It isn't
right. It's
about
about getting the job done.
yes,
Yeah. It's
and
about working together.
and donations can go to all different kind of organizations, and
Exactly.
people can,
Exactly.
you know, there's no cannibalization of donations the way that I look. It all goes to the same cause that we have, and that's what's important. And I want to emphasize that to people because that's why I've talked to so many different other rescues and organizations on these podcasts because I think it's just important that we all work together.
I agree. Yeah, many hands make light work, and we need to, instead of getting bogged down in admin and all this other
Ah,
stuff. Let's work together so we can get the work done that's needed. Yeah.
exactly. And we all have, and I think that all of our viewers and everybody who follows you socially and me socially, we all have the same thing. We all want the same end result. We want
Yes, we do.
to take care of these animals, whether it be dogs, cats, horses, donkeys. I don't care
Exactly.
what it is. Because, even though our name says K9 Global Rescue, as you know, we've
No,
rescued.
you've done many different animals. Yes, absolutely. I
I mean,
know.
but, it's just that I think that bringing awareness is really, really important to your work and to everybody else's work. And I really appreciate you taking the time out today and coming on and explaining what you're doing. And I hope that people will get in touch with you and look at your website.
Me
And
too.
yeah, of course.
I
All right.
really appreciate it. Okay.
Well,
Thank you, John.
thank you, Amy, Dr.
Okay.
Amy. I
Yes.
appreciate it.
All right. You take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.